And the follow-up question to that report by Gatete Njoroge is whether online activists have broken the law. Now, the recent upsurge in online activism in the form of satire, cartoon silhouettes, and at times downright trolling have sparked debate on the limits of freedom of expression as enshrined under Article 33 of the Constitution. And while satire, cartoons, and silhouettes are fundamental ingredients and a cornerstone of Kenya's constitutional democracy, constitutional lawyers opine that there are limitations imposed by the Constitution that border on personal, reputational injury, dignity, and integrity, which may amount to cyberbullying and harassment punishable under the Computer Misuse and Cybercrimes Act of 2018. Ayub Abdikadi reports on the thin line between the moral and legal limits, even as the National Police Service denies involvement in abductions of Kenyans expressing themselves online.
I have heard you, and I have heard the many Kenyans who have.
Online platforms have become the theater of operation for Kenya's youth.
Our constitution and all of us shall work together,
raising questions that border on governance. The winter of Gen Z just but the foremost example, compelling President William Ruto to join an online conversation to hear from the country's youth. However, recent online activities targeting the country's leadership have sparked debate on the limits of freedom of expression.
Freedom of expression, although recognized and protected by the Constitution, is also qualified. The qualification in that Constitution means you do not say things that can cause personal injury or reputational injury to others. You have to pay attention to people's dignity, integrity, and self-worth and self-esteem as well. So you don't bring people down just because you can express yourself.
And while there are acceptable limits subject to judicial interpretation, on the legal, moral, and the decency limits, some activities may attract punishment under the Computer Misuse and Cybercrimes Act of 2018.
So I've seen these silhouettes that depict the president in a coffin or in a grave. That cannot, by any stretch of imagination, be taken or interpreted to fall within the framework or the rubric of freedom of expression. That amounts to harassment, to bullying, malice, ill will, the kind of moral wrongs that could easily turn out to be legal wrongs.
The National Police Service, accused of involvement in abducting those behind the content online, has delinked itself as concerns mount over their whereabouts.
You know, police officers are always at the forefront in the defense of the rights and freedoms of the people. That is actually our training, to defend the rights of the people. You see? So, now, abduction does not come there, because when you are abducting, you are not defending the rights of those people.
Creative or artistic expression should not be punished, right? But it's upon us to use and apply our good sense of judgment to know the limits. Because if you do not ask yourself what is the limit or what is it that constitutes acceptable artistic expression, then you run the risk that you may be inconvenienced if law enforcement authorities perceive your expressive artistic expression as outrageous and malicious.
The rise in targeted criticism of leaders on social media by Kenyans has seen a corresponding rise in targeted intimidation, creating an environment of fear and hostility. Lawyers and human rights defenders say it is a systematic clampdown on free speech by the government. Human rights defender Alamin Kimathi drew comparisons between Presidents Moi and Ruto on his X platform, formerly Twitter, saying, Moi got jumpy that he detained people for the most idiotic imagined crimes of treason. 2 village loafers deep in Nyandarua County were jailed for writing letters to each other while high on weed, signing off as the King and Prime Minister of Kenya respectively. We heading there? Senior Counsel Paul Mwite also posted on his X platform, calling for the release of Kenyans abducted reportedly by security agencies, stating, Government of Kenya released those young Kenyans abducted for exercising their constitutional rights and freedoms of thought and expression. They should, according to him, enjoy Christmas and the New Year with their families. The response from the government targeting tech-savvy Kenyans daring to write against it and leaders has led to calls for accountability on the whereabouts of Kenyans whose families allege have been abducted by security agencies. Ayub Abdikadir, Citizen TV.